to FC Tales, the podcast where football's most captivating stories come to life.
Ever get that feeling like something big is happening, but nobody's talking about the elephant in the room?
You're right. Sometimes the most fascinating stories are hiding in plain sight.
That's exactly what we're diving into today. Think about it. Argentina, 1978, the World Cup. On the surface, pure athletic spectacle.
Right, the world's game. A celebration of skill and national pride.
But behind the scenes, oh boy, a whole other ball game was playing out. It's a story about how a dictatorship tried to use the World Cup for its own twisted agenda.
A story that really gets at the heart of how sports and politics, they can get so tangled up.
Exactly. So picture this. 1976, Argentina's in turmoil. A military coup throws the country into chaos.
Right, and this General Jorge Videla, he takes power.
This wasn't some peaceful transition of power. This was the start of something truly horrific. They called it the Dirty War.
The dark chapter in Argentina's history.
Absolutely. And it's during this time, with this backdrop of fear and oppression, that Argentina prepares to host the World Cup. Thousands of people vanished.
Students, activists, anyone deemed an enemy of the state, they were tortured, murdered, disappeared by the regime.
It's almost unfathomable. And yet, here's Argentina getting ready for this global celebration of football.
The Junta, they saw this as their golden opportunity.
Oh, yeah. A chance to cover up their crimes with confetti and stadium lights. They poured money into building these gleaming new stadiums, welcoming the international media with open arms.
All part of this carefully crafted facade, right? They wanted to project an image of strength and stability to the world.
A stark contrast to the terrifying reality unfolding within their borders.
It's chilling.
Yeah.
And, dictatorships, they crave legitimacy on the world stage.
They want to be seen as legitimate players, even when they're committing atrocities behind closed doors.
And hosting a successful, globally televised event like the World Cup, that's a propaganda goldmine for a regime like that.
It's almost unimaginable. While fans around the world were gearing up for a month of thrilling matches, the Argentine people were living under the constant threat of this brutal regime.
Living in fear, many silenced by the very real threat of violence. It makes you wonder.
Wonder what?
Did the people of Argentina buy into this facade? Could they even allow themselves to get caught up in the excitement of the World Cup, knowing what their government was doing?
That's the question, isn't it?
That's the heart of this whole story.
It's just wild to think about, this collision of sport and politics all playing out on this global stage.
And let's not forget about the players, caught right in the thick of it.
Right, the Argentine national team. What a position to be in.
Exactly. I mean, they're carrying the hopes of a nation on their shoulders, but under the watchful eyes of this oppressive regime. Can you imagine the pressure?
It's hard to even fathom. And they're supposed to just go out there and play football like it's any other day.
And that's the question that lingers, isn't it? Could they, should they, even allow themselves to feel the joy of victory, knowing what was happening in their country? It's a question that still hangs over this tournament.
It really adds another layer to it, doesn't it? And speaking of layers, we can't forget about that match, the one that still gets people talking.
Argentina versus Peru.
Oh.
Yes. That's where things take an even stranger turn.
Their final group stage game, they needed to win by 4 goals to advance. 4 goals. And somehow they managed to pull it off. A 6-0 victory.
Right, now that's where the skepticism really kicks in.
Right. I mean, come on. A 6-0 win when they needed exactly 4 goals to advance.
Rumors started flying. Bribery, coercion, whispers of Videla himself paying a little visit to the Peruvian locker room before the match.
No way,
Yeah.
really. What do you think went down in that locker room?
Honestly, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
No hard evidence ever surfaced, but the speculation has lingered for decades. Did Peru throw the match? Were they pressured? Threatened? It's a question that continues to cast a shadow over Argentina's victory.
It's like something out of a movie, This dictator pulling strings behind the scenes of the World Cup.
It really makes you question how far people are willing to go to manipulate these events for their own gain.
So Argentina's heading to the final against the Netherlands. They're riding this wave of controversial victory. The pressure is immense. Videla's watching. The entire country is holding its breath. Talk about a pressure cooker.
It becomes about so much more than a game at that point, doesn't it?
Right. What are the stakes even at that point?
For the players, it's a chance to escape, a moment of triumph in the face of oppression. But for Videla, it's a chance to solidify his power, to bask in the reflected glory of a nation's win, even if it's built on a foundation of fear and silence.
It's almost hard to imagine, The weight of a nation resting on your shoulders with this dictator literally looking over your shoulder.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah.
And yet, here they are, these players, on the world's biggest stage in the World Cup final.
Argentina versus the Netherlands, the whole world watching. It was a match for the ages.
It really was something else, a tense back-and-forth battle. The score tied 1-1, the clock ticking down.
I bet you could hear a pin drop in that stadium.
Oh, absolutely. The tension was palpable. And then, boom, in the 105th minute, Argentina scores.
Can you imagine that eruption? The crowd, the noise, the release of all that pent-up anxiety and hope.
It must have been deafening, the kind of moment that sends shivers down your spine.
Argentina held on. 3-1 the final score. They did it. They won the World Cup.
A moment of pure elation for Argentina, a brief escape from the darkness that had gripped their nation.
But that's where things get really complicated, right?
Exactly. How do you celebrate? How do you truly embrace that joy, knowing what's happening in the shadows?
With the truth of the dirty war starting to come out.
Yeah, the disappearances, the torture, the murders, it cast a long shadow over everything.
And the players.
They were left grappling with this incredibly complex legacy. Some embraced the victory, the pride they felt in that moment. Others, haunted by the knowledge of what their win had been used to conceal.
It's a powerful reminder that sports don't exist in a vacuum.
Right. They're a reflection of society, of politics, of the world we live in.
And sometimes they're even used as a tool to distract from the truth.
That's the real takeaway here, I think. It makes you question everything.
It really does. It makes you think about our role as spectators, as fans. What are we supporting? What are we turning a blind eye to?
What are we willing to overlook in the name of entertainment? These are tough questions, but they're questions we have to ask ourselves.
The 1978 World Cup, it's this perfect example of how sports and politics can collide, sometimes with devastating consequences. It's a story about the power of sport, the allure of victory, but also the responsibility we all share to confront injustice no matter where it hides. And that's what we've got to remember, right?
Absolutely. We can't let ourselves get swept up in the spectacle, the excitement. We have to remember the human cost, the stories behind the headlines.
We have to keep asking those tough questions, keep seeking the truth. Well, that's our deep dive for today. We hope this journey through the shadows of the 1978 World Cup has given you something to think about. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep digging deeper into the world around you.